Find the Shapley-Shubik power distribution of each of the following weighted voting systems. And the weighted voting system, and this is the number of votes needed to carry a motion. Now, there are 4 players. How do I know that? Because over here, and we're going to go to the right of the colon, we have 4 numbers listed. That means that there are 4 players. And each player has a weighted vote. So player 1 has a weighted vote of 90, player 2 has a weighted vote of 80, player 3 has a weighted vote of 30, and player 4 has a weighted vote of 20. Which means that in order for these players must vote together to achieve 111 votes. So in order to do this, I need to know the number of sequential coalitions in order to solve this problem. Well, sequential coalitions, SS, I said SS, but that should be SC, is given by the following. So T is going to be our sequential coalitions. That's going to be the number of sequential coalitions, and that will be given by n factorial, where the n is the number of players. So in this case, since I have 4 players, T will be equal to 4 factorial, which will be equal to 24. So that's the number of sequential coalitions that exist, which means that I need to write out all 24 of them. So these are the 24 sequential coalitions. Now, basically what you're doing is, remember that order is important. So this coalition, P sub 1, P sub 2, P sub 3, P sub 4, is different than this coalition, P sub 1, P sub 2, P sub 4, P sub 3. Now once we do this, we need to find out who the pivotal player is for each one of these coalitions. So let's write that down. So in order to do that, let's start with the first one and just examine it to see exactly how we do this. So we have P sub 1, P sub 2, P sub 3, and P sub 4. Now remember that each one of these has a weighted value. This first one, P sub 1, has 90 votes. The second one, P sub 2, has 80 votes. The third one, P sub 3, has 30 votes. And the fourth one, P sub 4, has 20 votes. Now remember that we want to achieve 111 votes. Well, in order to do that, we'll start with this coalition, and we'll see that this is 90 votes. That's not quite 111 votes, is it? So then next, I look at this one, which is going to add 80 votes to that. So if they both vote the same way, that means that I have 170 votes total. And that means that player 2, or P sub 2, is my pivotal player here. Once we've figured out who the pivotal player is for each one of these, then I'm going to count the number of times that player occurs. Using the same logic that I have just used, we will find that the pivotal player for all of these will be the following. This will be p sub 2, p sub 2, then p sub 3, p sub 3. Now you'll notice that I've got p sub 2 for the first two and then p sub 3 for the second two. Because if we look at these players, this is going to be 90 plus 80, which gives us 170. This is 170 also. Then we move to this one, which is P1 and P3, but remember that P1 is 90 and P3 is 30, so 90 plus 30 is 120, so therefore P3 is a pivotal player. That works again here and here. However, when we get here, P1 and P4, well, P1 is 90, but P4 is 20, and that's just simply 110, and that falls one vote shy. So if I had 90 plus 20, that's equal to 110, but it must be equal to 111, which means that this third player, p sub 2, is the one that's pivotal here. Once again, we're going to go p sub 1, p sub 4, and p sub 3, and this would be the pivotal player. And we're going to use that same logic to figure out which ones are the pivotal players for all of these. So this will be p sub 1, this will be p sub 1 also. For this one we have p sub 2, p sub 3, p sub 1, p sub 4. Now remember that p sub 2 is going to be 80, and then p sub 3 is 30, and that's going to be 110, so that means that p sub 1 will be the pivotal player again here. So now we have p sub 2, p sub 3, p sub 4. P sub 4 is going to be the pivotal player, and then so on. So now, using the logic that we had applied to find the first couple of them, I've gone ahead and found all the pivotal players for each one of the sequential coalitions. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and add them up to find out what number we have. So p sub 1, which is really going to be my Shapley-Shubik 1, SS sub 1, and we simply count the number of p sub 1s. We'll go ahead and count them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So p sub 1 will be 10. So now we're going to go ahead and find p sub 2. Which will be SS sub 2. And that will be equal to, well, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to find p sub 3, which will be SS sub 3. And that will be equal to the following. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 also. And then finally we come to p sub 4, which will be equal to SS sub 4, and that will be equal to the following. Let's see, 1, 2, and that's it. So there are our numbers. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create the ratio. So what is the ratio? Well, the Shapley-Shubik power ratio, or power distribution, is simply equal to SS sub whatever we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to count it as. But this is going to be SS, and we're going to divide that by T. And this is our ratio. So, sigma sub 1 will be equal to SS sub 1 divided by T, which in this case will be equal to 10. We're going to divide by T, which was 24. Remember that from previous in the problem. Now we always want to reduce to simplest form. Do not convert it into a decimal. Remember that you will always reduce this to simplest form. So in this case we have 5 over 12. Then we're going to go ahead and find sigma sub 2. And that will be equal to SS sub 2 over T, which in this case will be equal to 6 over 24, which will be equal to 1/4. And we're going to continue down the road. Sigma sub 3 will be equal to SS sub 3 divided by T, or over T, and that will be equal to 6 over 24 also, which will reduce to 1/4. And then finally, for sigma sub 4, that's going to be equal to SS sub 4 over T, which will be equal to 2 over 24, which is equal to 1/12. Now remember that these four values here must add to 1. And so you would want to go ahead and verify that. You'd have 5 over 12 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/12. And that means that we have 5 over 12 plus 3 over 12 plus 3 over 12 plus 1 over 12, which is equal to 12 over 12, which is in fact equal to 1.